years ago in a Denny's. And right? If you don't believe me, I will pull the notebook out of the trunk of my car. We wrote a list. So the first meeting, we're going to decide, well, what are we going to do that's going to be so different from every open mic, and it's going to be amazing. And then the second meeting was, well, who are we going to have to come? And on the top of that list was our next poet, and it's taken us all this time. Caitlin Pryor's work has appeared or is forthcoming in Pleiades, Entropy, Be Still My Heart, Gulf Coast, Poet Lore, Boxcar Poetry Review, the Mississippi Review, and Elsewhere and Everywhere. Nominated for the Best New Poets Anthology Series and a semifinalist for the Asada Press Sawtooth Book Prize. Thank you. She won the Mississippi Review Prize, the Ron McFarlane Prize for Poetry. She should win every prize, and an Avery Hopwood Award, and has been a participant at the Sewanee Writers Conference. She holds degrees from the University of Michigan, the New School, and the University of North Texas, where she is currently a lecturer in the Department of English. She writes for the Dallas Observer, American Micro Reviews and Interviews, and other outlets. She lives in Denton, Texas. Welcome her to the stage, Caitlin Pryor!
Thank you, Paul. That's hands down the best introduction I've ever had in my life. That's fantastic. Thank you all for being here. I'm so happy to read at Deep Vellum. I'm going to start too with a poem that Jenny's going to help me read. Technology, right? I love Jeopardy. I love trivia. I'm very competitive. I watch Jeopardy religiously. I finally decided to let it get into my poems. So the part that Jenny is reading, these are all actual questions and answers from actual Jeopardy shows. 3 different episodes that I've sort of smushed together. She's going to read the questions and answers, and I'll read the sort of left-hand side here. So this is called Jeopardy. I used to let you win sometimes. Did you know? When Trebek strode on stage with his salvo of answers.
Her poem, Lady Lazarus, ends, out of the ash I rise with my red hair, and I eat men like air.
You didn't hear me coo.
Who is Sylvia Plath?
Because I let those softballs whiz past like low-bee bees, sluggish with honey, arrested by sweetness as I was. I thought sugar and silence were the same thing. Thought you'd love me if you could best me, but I paid the cost of quiet.
His research study, Sexual Behavior in the Human Female, was a sensation in 1953.
It was never right between us, not even when we shucked the clothes from each other's bodies.
Who is Alfred Kinsey?
No, his clipboarded notes would not have been kind. We were 2 lab rats under glass, sparks singeing our paws. My wedding dress was still fragrant with wine.
TLC describes this show with a rhyming title as part fashion show, part bridal story, part family therapy.
Was it really so long ago that you worried its pearl clasp?
What is say yes to the dress?
More like say no, am I right? You scold? But I'm already gone, absorbed by the next answer.
This sister who inspired Eunice Shriver to found the Special Olympics died in 2005 at the age of 86.
That sweet sister who sang the Star-Spangled Banner, then stopped.
Who is Rosemary Kennedy?
Her acronymed frères pressed ether into her family secret. They sliced until the human part was gone.
I said, who is Rosemary Kennedy?
They made her small, and I tried their trick to make room for you. Almond sliver, dust mote, a pencil's shaved screed. I tried, my love, to disappear.
I said it. You didn't hear me?
You changed the channel. I feel the pulse of her cortex against the blade.
Hello?
I turn to ask you if you know that they quit cutting when she quit singing. Oh, say. Okay. This next poem has a sort of demented children's storybook quality to it. I'm trying to speak simply here about something that's difficult. So it's got a lot of anaphora repetition here. It's called Squeeze. Little girl cries. Little girl lets juice river the front of her dress. Big girl watches, fondles a blood orange in grocery store glare. Little girl displeases her father. His eyes ripen. He dwarfs the shopping cart. Big girl's veins ice over like back roads. Big girl knows what comes next. Little girl's father squeezes her tiny hands in his, tight, tighter, tightest. Big girl knows that pressure. Her once husband's displeasure, a stolen necklace. Little girl's mewling crescendos to scream, her fingers, pale petals scarlet with pain. Big girl freezes. Big girl thinks her mother would know what to do. Little girl shrieks, begs with her eyes, wet and brown as fruit rot. Big girl's body hurls into their orbit. Big girl bellows. Feathers come out instead of words. Little girl is learning the yoke of men. Little girl's father wants to finish this lesson. Big girl crushes the man with her stare. Big girl watches him let go her hands. Little girl blubbers, wipes her splotched face. This lesson will not be her last. Big girl leaves the store, lights a cigarette with throbbing fingers. Little girl glides down the aisle, a wounded bird. Her tears evaporate like rain. Big girl doesn't hold hands anymore. Big girl knows what hands can do. This one is called Another Easter. As an agnostic, I end up writing a lot of poems on Easter, and usually they're not very good. I try every year to say something, I don't know. So this one is called Another Easter. This is sort of one of the Easter poems that worked out for me. You'll recognize the story at the beginning. Another Easter. And I'm rising from the dead, or something like it. The other woman's name coats my tongue like lover's sweat, sweet and suffocating. The other woman ruined us, but I brought up the rear. I'm free and also in a cave, forsaken like that cat, alive and dead behind a rolled stone. The other woman's car lies dormant in the street, and I feel vengeance sting its way up my throat. A car key glints between my knuckles, like a shiv primed to puncture a gut. No, ma'am, I won't lacerate the white skin of the other woman's caprice with scuffs and scrapes of brass, the way Mama once asked me to abrade my cheating daddy's blue Yukon. I can resurrect his face if I roll my eyes back in my head and squint through the keyhole into the room where I keep the things that can't come back, men and marriage and Jesus. I can't be Mama's kind of woman who mistakes a scar for the heart's own healing. Take that, the key said as it flashed across Daddy's passenger side. Report back, Mama had said. God damn, should we do it? My lover says now. Won't cut deep enough, I say. I had a very big achievement this year. I got my very first boot on my car. Last year. Never happened to me before, some unpaid campus parking tickets. And when I went to go beg them to take it off, I had to sign a piece of paper admitting that I was a scofflaw. And I became obsessed with this word, and a scofflaw is someone who flouts the law, but particularly when that law is hard to enforce, especially. That is the like sort of extra meaning of that word. And I started to think about what that might mean. So this poem is scofflaw. The next morning, while countless grackles machinate overhead, I bring my nose to my shoulder and forearm, incline it toward my bitten breasts. My skin still smells like you. I carry your touch in my cells as I stare, alone in pre-dawn's many-hearted thrum, at the back wheel of my car, held fast with a metal boot. A great word. These are the feet that let me run from what I know I must do. Cook, clean, love only one man at a time. I have two more, I guess? I don't know. This is a little bit longer one. This starts, I wrote this the beginning of last year, which was the 30th anniversary of the Challenger explosion, the space shuttle disaster. It happened in my lifetime, but I don't remember it. I was about a couple months old. But this is sort of a poem commemorating that tragedy and thinking about personal tragedy and the confluence of that with like bigger cultural tragedies. It begins with an epigraph from the journalist Tom Skaka. This is the epigraph. It was of a piece with the hubris and magical thinking that had led NASA to put a civilian social studies teacher aboard a dangerous spacecraft for a nation of students to watch live in class. There was no equipment to arrest the craft's fall or to allow the astronauts to ditch it, nor even an emergency locating transmitter. The crew could do nothing but ride it down. This is magical thinking. As the sea hurtled toward them, did they comprehend the missed lesson plans and clasped hands that would be pressed like petals to those moony faces while the craft bloomed peony and poppy orange? What cannonball of dread fell into their strapped-in laps? Did they beseech the so-close stars and tell me, did they ever answer? Our reach, of course, exceeds our grasp, but on that day we gawped together, eyes filled with fuel smoke, glued to that vision like my mother was, at home on solid ground, holding my 2-month-old body like the sky held the shuttle for 73 seconds before, oh God, something went wrong. Why are some things destined to explode? And what's it like to feel the end in the pit of your gut, like a rotten payload, just as the engine turns? The friends and lovers stuck down here that day looked skyward wearing nothing but belief on their brows, while the craft's arc exploded into a cloud shaped like a crustacean, yes, like one that might scuttle over the fuselage as it slept fitfully on the ocean floor. The Museum of Artifacts kept from the history books, the helmet containing a pair of ears, forever emptied of song. The slip of paper with her handwriting careening over it, instructions for a card game you always said you hated. Wait, this is the wrong museum. Let's look at the astronaut's scalp that clung to the glass hat's bubble like a scab instead. Are you still reading? Stay with me, please. Look directly at the broken bodies, the ruined things. Dig your hands into the hubris, that stupid hope. Is this as close as we can come, ensconcing ourselves in heaven by force, by dream and wish, tacking bodies to the sky like push-pinned paper angels? Tell me, is there any comfort in that? Will there ever be a night when the stars don't seem like those 14 eyes refracted back, or his 2 eyes darkening as they silently admit it's time to go? Will we lose our nerve? One day will NASA be no better than a celestial Six Flags, vaulting the rich into the sky for kicks? If we won't pierce the sky, who's to say this day is anything more than a coffin? Who's to say our hearts can be powered by desire alone? Thank you. I just have one last poem. Thank you again so much for listening and for having me. Thank you, Paul. This has been a long time in the making.
Yes,
I'm really happy
nice.
that we get to do this, and I get to share the stage with these wonderful poets. Jenny helped me with her careful, beautiful reading eye on this poem, so I'm going to end with it. It's called Browning. Oh, helpless husband, marzipan prince in your father's suit, you never knew how you grew up or whether. Think of the night you called to ask how to brown ground beef. At 30, you didn't know a thing about cooking, so I paused a lively conversation at dinner 5 states away. I should have told you to call back later. Instead, I froze beneath a street lamp, tried to describe the thaw of pink beef going brown as autumn leaves. And why wouldn't I? At home, that smells good was the only compliment I'd get in a day or week or month. Our little horseshoe kitchen, a court I held sway over, the way to a man's heart and all that. Then I let you go. You let me go. But still, when I linger over the stove's concentric fire, I remember the first burgers I made in your filthy bachelor's kitchen. I held the heft of beef like a brick. It ached for a window to slaughter. Raw hands deep in the raw meat, I broke it into 4 pieces, then rubbed each hunk's edges smooth. The mud-colored patties, alight on chintzy buns, still bore the marks of a grinder, wormy tracks in their midst, the paths of maggots through a body. But I got better at cooking, better at forgetting the shackle of dinners on the table at 5. And now I'm struck anew by my mother's advice about browning beef. She warned that just because it looked ready didn't mean that it was. Dear foolish man, I was still pink inside, but I was so proud of that terrible meal. We ate it, and I cooked 1,000 more. Thank you.